Nowadays, we always carry a map with us. But in the not-so-distant past, one had to pore over paper maps to navigate the world. For our next CUNY graduate, who became a Guggenheim Fellow, maps are not only a way to get from point A to point B, but a visual and psychic space where she can explore meaning, identity, and color.
Visually, I was always drawn to old maps, like how beautiful they were, what one chose to put in them, and how that manifested in drawing processes, either more or less illustrative or more chart-like. The map is a metaphor for location, trying to locate oneself. I studied Russian and went to the Soviet Union, and you get this map, which you think was factual, and it was all invented to keep people away from certain zones. And so you'd look at like things that looked like an equilateral triangle, and you realize, well, that's a mile, so this should be a mile. Well, no, that was 5 miles. I became interested in these structures that we trust to navigate us and locate us, and that the need to have those systems in place to feel grounded. And so that underlying interest in structure remains in the work to this day. In paintings, I've tried to create things that we trust as like, it's just there. A grid is just there. We don't feel things from a grid, you know. We understand measurement and proportion from a grid. But if I mess with that grid and make it a net, so some things, they're not measured equally, or I stack them where the grid is smaller at the top or bigger at the bottom, all of a sudden the space starts to happen, or a wobble. So I'm trying to take what in painting is unmovable, you know, just measurable, and make it not that. It's a contrarian move. And the same with color. We don't question primary colors. Our signs on the roads are that, because we're not supposed to feel something from a yield sign. We're just supposed to yield, right? But if you change that color slightly, then all of a sudden it has associations, psychologies, etc. So I play with those subtle shifts to make the viewer question, like, what am I looking at here? Why do I think I'm looking at that? Why do I feel this way? I want the consciousness of the viewer to be an aware zone, that they are aware they're making these decisions like one does as a person in the world. I guess I put it at 2nd grade because I remember making my first painting, which was pure magic, and there was no turning back. A teacher took us out with some sponges and some paint, made us look at the landscape. The sponges, you know, replicated the impression of leaves. Somehow I put things in perspective, like I had little trees in the back, and I just thought, wow, what I was just looking at just got downloaded to this page. From then on, I was like the art kid in school. It was just so magical to me that that could happen, that you could depict something that you were looking at in a simple way. I did, I think, what most art students do. I tried to figure out how to paint. I was really trying to figure out myself. And that space that I'm figuring out is a felt space. It's not a literal space. It's like it's psychological. So I think abstraction is the best place to talk about, you know, the visceral and not the factual or actual. I worked for artists. I worked for Jennifer Bartlett, the artist, and Elizabeth Murray, and Jack Tworkov one summer in Provincetown, Massachusetts. Learned a lot from being in their studios and watching different ways that they set up their studios, organize their days. Then I started applying for college teaching jobs. I've been at Hunter since 2002. I've always been impressed with Hunter College. I've always thought the faculty, the combination of students there, from someone that's truly could go to one of these elite universities but doesn't for some reason, and a recent immigrant. And that station is this kind of constantly moving, shifting zone of that population of the college and the Upper East Side. It's this real collision of worlds which coexist. It's never still. The motivation behind the works was to try to create that kind of stimulating movement, you know, a little bit of stop, a little bit of go in the flow of the works there. I think people get the vibration, the action, the movement of it all. I think that in the world there are things that present themselves as facts, and in painting too, but they're kind of fictions in a sense, meaning that we all don't have the same experience, we all don't have the same lenses on things. There's no fact that crosses all boundaries, all peoples. And this relates to the way I was identified in the world. So, you know, as a light-skinned Black woman, people inevitably at one point would want to say, what are you? I'm like, well, you've known me for 2 years. Like, what more do you need to know, or 5 years, or 10 years, or... But they wanted the label Black or mixed. Once they had that label, I thought, well, that's making them feel secure. And that feels factual, but it's really empty for meaning. There's lots of Black people, and we're all different. With different backgrounds. So it's a false sense of security of fact. I rebel against being part of any group because I think it flattens the person. Even now, I don't even want to be called an abstract painter because that proposes a certain history, a certain interest, a certain type of person, a certain gender of person in its origins. I try to avoid categorization in every way possible. Just a painter, period. That's it.